Hi, I'm AJ George and I'll be your unit coordinator for Laws 12068 IP Law at the wonderful Central Queensland University. This video really is just about saying hello, telling you a little bit about myself and telling you a little bit about the unit so that you know what to expect. About me, I graduated from Bond University right here on the glorious Gold Coast, and I then went to Brisbane to practice in IP law, corporate and commercial finance and a few other things before finding myself in the United Kingdom, where I did a master's in IP law because you just can't get enough IP law. I then came back and studied at UQ for a PhD in patent law, you guessed it, and I then taught IP law at UQ for some years before moving across to QUT, and now I find myself at the wonderful CQU. In this unit, we get to explore a whole lot of IP, and I'm hoping that by the end of the unit, you'll love IP just as much as I do. We'll just go through a quick presentation now, and I can drill down into the finer points of the unit for you. Okay, so here we have IP law at a glance. You can see really from the dot points here, we have PBL learning in weeks 1 to 7, which I'll talk more about in a minute. So the front half of the unit really is quite a practical part of the unit, just designed for you guys to get your heads around the fundamental forms of IP. And then in the back half of the unit, really we move to a more critical analysis of IP and the hot topics in IP. So for the front half of the unit, we'll be looking more carefully at copyright, a little bit on registered designs, although that's not a huge part of the unit and it won't form an accessible part of the unit. We'll also be looking at, obviously, a very important part of IP, patent rights and trademarks. We'll also be looking at other associated forms of IP like confidential information, or some people call them trade secrets, or more humorously, the secret source of IP. And a couple of things that you've probably also looked at in other units in your degree studies, so passing off, the tort of passing off, and also misleading and deceptive conduct, which is housed under the Australian Consumer Law in the Competition and Consumer Act. We'll also be looking a little bit further at the Competition and Consumer Act when we look at anti-competitive uses of IP. In the workshops, what we'll be doing is basically, you'll see here the same problem in weeks 1 to 6. So this is problem-based learning, and really what it is one grand scenario that really encompasses pretty much every form of IP that we'll be looking carefully at in this unit. And we'll be teasing out gradually, week by week, our further knowledge of the new IP rights that we've encountered for that week. It's designed as a good kind of introduction to the way that you'll be forced to confront IP if you're practicing. It's the kind of thing, the kind of problem that would present itself if you were in legal practice. So it's the first half of the unit really is a very practical form of learning. I do encourage you, and you can see I've got a little 10% carrot there for you, to get in and discuss your ideas in the forums. It's really important that we get together as a team and we discuss our ideas as they evolve in the unit. In the back half of the course, really what we'll be doing is focusing on a presentation, and you guys will need to get together in groups, and I'll tell you a little bit more at the end about how to do that. You'll need to choose your topic, choose your week, any time from weeks 8 until week 12, and we will be, as a group, presenting a workshop and leading the discussion on a hot topic in IP law. Now, I've got those topics listed out for you in the forums under the week 1 on Moodle. So get in and have a look at the presentation topics, the weeks there, and get in quick to choose your week that you want to discuss and present in. During your presentation, what you need to do is to lead the workshop and to really encourage the other participants in the workshop to get in and discuss your hot topic with you, you'll need to provide some critical analysis, but most importantly, you'll need to come across with a reasonably professional presentation with your teammates. There'll be about 4 students co-leading the presentation for each presentation. Really, this is designed to tease out a more critical analysis, and this is the kind of thing we're looking more and more at CQU. Quite a few of you will end up in other areas of employment rather than just traditional law firm practice. So while the front end of the course really is about looking at the typical kind of problem scenario that would come across your desk as a lawyer, the second half of the unit and where you're presenting and doing your research paper really engages some more critical, in-depth analysis. It's the kind of thing that you'd be doing if you were a barrister needing to provide detailed advice or detailed briefs. You might also be doing this kind of thing if you're engaged in a government department or a research think tank. Again, it's really useful for you to discuss the work with each other in the forum, and again, the 10% participation mark continues for the second half of the unit. The last thing that you'll be doing in the unit is a research paper, and this research paper, again, is designed to tease out more critical analysis from you guys, and that's what we really want to see in this unit. I've already got 2 broad topics. They're both listed in the week 1 materials, which are up on Moodle. If you want to scope your paper a little bit further, tweak it a little bit, I'm more than happy with that. Just come and discuss your ideas with me before you actually put pen to paper, and we can sign off on your tweaked research topic. Better to start it early. I know it's not due until week 12, but I really would encourage that you start thinking about these critical analysis papers sooner rather than later. Again, this unit is about not just typical lawyerly writing, it's also interested in critical analysis and in-depth legal research. And what we really need to be doing is sharing our research, discussing our research. It's not the case as it used to be, a few years ago, where you have an assignment and you do your research, you find some juicy tidbits of research and you keep those to yourself and you write up your paper and you hope that your research will be the stellar form in your paper that really gives you the extra marks that you want. Now really we want you to start researching and sharing your research, discussing your research, because this is what goes on in real life. You don't huddle your research towards your chest and not share it with anybody. You're actually out there sharing with your colleagues, sharing with your clients, and you need to get used to that. So that's the way we're going there. At the end of it though, for your research paper, obviously your research work has to be your own. It's not a group paper, it's an individual paper. So while you're more than free to share your research and discuss your research, and in fact we encourage that, at the end of the day, when it comes to putting pen to paper, you need to make sure that that work is actually your own. So overall in the unit, the outcomes will be not just a sound knowledge of the various different forms of IP, which we'll pick up from the front half of the unit in that kind of law firm advice scenario, but we'll be looking more critically and in a more sophisticated fashion for our presentations and for our written research papers. So that's the way that the unit will go. What you need to do this week is get in and choose your workshop. That's the most critical job for you guys to get squared away in the first week. Get onto Moodle, get into week 1, have a look at the forums there, read the topics, choose your topics, respond to the forum so that I've got it there in writing, and we'll limit those presentation weeks to 4 students per week. So that'll be presentations in weeks 8, 9, 10 and 11, and it looks as though we'll probably have more students to do presentations, and if so we can schedule another presentation for week 12. The other thing you need to do is to get into the materials for week 1, have a look at those 2 broad research topics that are due for your research paper at the end of the term. And if you want to tweak those topics, have a think about how you'd like to tweak the topics and tic-tac with me so that we can settle on a research topic sooner rather than later. The other couple of things that you can do for week 1, it'd be great if you all got into the forum discussion and said hello, told me a little bit about yourself, told your classmates a little bit about yourself. And I've also got a map up there so that we can actually see on the map. You don't have to give a precise location, it's probably better that you don't. But it's nice just as a visual aid for us to all see where everyone else is in this crazy online world, give us a bit of a sense of connection. And that's really IP law in a nutshell. So if you have any queries, just let me know. Other than that, I look forward to catching up with you in a Zoom workshop sometime soon. Thanks, guys.